Alright, so I just made all the parts and I'm going to begin assembling everything. I'm going to start off with this top assembly. I'm going to follow all these instructions that I made. And yeah, I'm probably going to speed up the footage so you don't have to wait through the whole thing, but here we go. So right now I'm adjusting the height of this bevel gear so the gears mesh well. There we go. So I'll stick all the nuts on the screws before I clamp them down just so nothing's falling off. These are lock nuts, so I don't need any lock washers or anything or Loctite to keep these on. And I don't have the proper size wrench, so I'm going to have to use these guys. So this might take a while. Now I won't tighten it all the way because it will need to be loose when I assemble it with the drivetrain. So I'll just get it about halfway. And then when I put the whole thing together, I'll lock them up all the way. So these holes didn't turn out perfect, so I had to drill them out with the closest inch size. They're still not ideal, but they're actually snug, so that's all that matters. Okay, that's probably all I'm going to do for now. It is completely loose, but that's so I can open these up to put the drivetrain in and then lock it in. And then of course the battery, when these are tight, fits perfectly in there. Nice and tight. Alright, so I'm now making the drivetrain. Here is what it's going to look like in the end. And of course I'm going to use all these instructions that I made to assemble it. Alright, here we go. So this is a friction fit, so no rotation. It's nice and snug. So I didn't machine any slots on the side of this, so I'm going to just have to use some pliers to grab the round stock. There you go. It's a little scuffed, but that's alright. Now I won't tighten this all the way because this is the belt tensioner, so I'll need to adjust it, of course, to tension the belt. So I'll just make it a little tight. not too tight. I can still move it back and forth. Perfect. So these cords might be in the way right here, but I can always rotate this motor by removing these two, or these three bolts. Just rotate it and then put them back in. So when I actually wire the whole thing, I'll adjust that as needed. Oh, yep, looks like I did put the wires in completely wrong because this plate right here is hitting them, so I'll have to rotate the motor now. And I'll just clock at 90, 180. Actually, I'll just go 90 the other way. Have the motor wires come out the back and tighten them up again. There we go. Now we can stick this plate on, like so. Put this thing in to lock it in place. Just tighten it by hand. Spins freely, that's good. Bit of a pain, but it's on there. Okay. Now for the belt. I'll stick the top one on. This is a really tight friction fit, so I don't need any screws to lock it in. Very tight. And then got a spacer and our bottom pulley. Also a friction fit. It's a little loose, but I might glue it later in case I have any problems with that. And then our 200 tooth belt. Wrap it around. Line it up and tension. Alright. There we go. Make sure you can see it. There's the drivetrain. Alright, so I'm making the full assembly now. Of course, it's not going to have the motor driver board or the gyroscope sensor because, well, I don't have the driver board yet, and I'm going to find the best place for the gyroscope sensor later on. And yeah, so right now we'll just put the two halves together and see how the battery fits, and then that'll be that. Alright, so the whole thing is technically together, but we gotta tighten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12 nuts. So that might take a while. Okay, so that was one of them. I'm probably just gonna make a cut to when the whole thing is done. Alright, so I am on the very last screw to tighten. Alright, there we go. There's the full assembly. It's very firm. Very little give in any given direction. Checking the balance, it is very good. Of course I can't really check this way because it's got 2 points of contact right there, so it would need to be an actual steady string. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Looks cool. It's a bit heavier than I expected, but I'm sure it's actually pretty accurate to the model, and I'll check that with a scale and just see how good it turned out. So first impression's pretty good. I'll have to manage these wires later. They're a bit longer. They came pre-cut, so they're a bit longer than what they would need to be. So yeah, everything works well. The gears mesh well. There's very little play. Like maybe that much play in the thing. So these bevel gears turned out really good. And of course the drivetrain looks great, works great. It does look like this pulley actually slips a bit sometimes, right there. So I might need to either glue it or print another half with a tighter tolerance so it grabs onto that shaft a little more. Yeah, nice. I forgot to record. Just checking the battery, if that fits well. Now that these two rails are fixed, let's see how that works. Oh, that feels good. It's actually snug, so it's just a press fit. Very cool. And look at that. It's balancing on its own. So that CAD model was very good. It's balancing all on its own. So I mean, that's great. Of course, the motor driver board is going to add a little bit of weight to it, but I mean, starting off with something that balances on its own is actually really nice. I imagine the programming, the tuning of the programming won't be too bad. But of course, if I give it any sort of bump, it's going to fall over. But that's what the stepper motors are for. So, cool.